Yo guys, what's going on? It is Christian Justin here, and today I'm going to be talking to you about the Viltrox 85mm f1.8, or as I like to call it, the budget portrait beast. I am first going to start off with a couple of things that I think is probably the best selling points for this lens, and then towards the end I'm going to say a couple of things that aren't the best thing about this lens, but it is a budget lens, so there is going to be a couple of trade-offs that you're going to have to take. And starting off with this list is the price. So I actually picked this up off Amazon for £300. Correct me if I'm wrong, I genuinely think that is the cheapest 85 autofocus lens there is. There might be a couple of manual focus or retro lenses that are a bit cheaper than that, but for a lens with pretty decent autofocus as well, £300 is insane. Saying that the Sony equivalent is £550 and then the G Master version is actually about £1,400. This is truly a budget lens. Another great thing about this lens is the image quality, and when I was actually buying this lens I wasn't expecting anything great, but I have truly been surprised and shocked at how good the image quality is. I'm going to throw a couple of images up on screen, and I'm also going to zoom into them as well so you can actually see how sharp the subject is. And I'm also going to put a picture up of the moon that I took with this 85mm. Now 85mm is not usually zoomed in enough to actually take a picture of the moon very well anyway. But by putting the camera on APS-C mode and also zooming in a little bit more on Lightroom, I actually got a pretty decent picture of the moon. And even if you looked at the picture for more than a minute, you probably wouldn't even be able to tell that there's any loss of quality. Another great thing is just 85mm. It's such a great focal length. I remember when I got into photography and I bought a 50mm, which is not 85mm, but it's quite close to that, on an APS-C body. I hated that lens. I used to think it was too zoomed in, I couldn't get any backgrounds in. But now that I've actually used the camera for quite a few years, I've come to the realization that 85mm is just an amazing focal range. Like most people use it for, it is great for portraits. If you actually use a bit of skill and a bit of thinking out of the box, 85mm is also great for landscapes, or punching into a specific point of a landscape that you might not have been able to get with a 20mm or a 24mm. It always gives you a different look and a different feel to your image. And another thing it's also great for is product photography, which is another thing that I've been getting into a lot recently, which you can check out my last video. I'll leave a link to it up here. The bokeh on this lens is very soft, but the thing is I quite like it soft, so for me that is a bonus. For other people it might not be. I quite like bokeh. Other photographers don't like bokeh at all. That one is kind of just your own opinion. And then the last thing I've got to say is the autofocus, which I've already touched on. When I bought this lens, I was genuinely thinking I'd probably use it as a manual lens more. I didn't expect anything great from the autofocus, but I actually can't fault it. If the subject is too close to the camera, sometimes it does hunt, but usually it is really precise. And obviously as well, it does depend on your camera. But I am shooting on the A7R II, which is not known to have the greatest autofocus of all time. Actually, it's known to have quite bad autofocus, but it's still really good with this lens. And now to a couple of the downsides of this lens. Because it is so cheap, the build quality is not great. The actual lens here is basically all metal except for the focus ring, so it's quite a heavy lens, but you can tell that they have cheaped out on something like the lens hood or the lens cap. A thing that I have found is getting the lens hood on is quite easy. When you get it off and you want to put it on this way, you have to there you go. You basically have to fight with it. And then another thing is the focus noise. Now when you are focusing with this lens, you can hear the motors inside moving around, and it's basically just like a little robot noise. If you're looking to get this lens for video, I probably would recommend just getting the Sony 1.8 one instead, just because that noise can be a pain and it is quite loud as well. And then again, if you are using this lens for video, it doesn't have any optical steady shot as well, which I really wasn't expecting out of a lens that's £300, but because it is quite punched in, every move you can see, even with the IBIS on the A7R2. So basically for video I wouldn't recommend this lens, but for photography it is amazing and it does absolutely everything that I need it to do. Well then guys, that is actually all I have for today. If you did enjoy this video, please leave a like, and if you are new around here, please think about subscribing. You actually might like some of my other videos. Anyways guys, thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.